All right, today we're diving deep into Etaf Rum's incredible debut novel, A Woman Is No Man. And believe me, this is a story that really cracks open a world of silence and tradition. So, the first thing you see is this cover, right? The title, it looks like it's painted on this cracked turquoise wall. It's so bold, so fractured. What does that make you feel? It's not subtle, is it? It's not a whisper. To me, it feels like a shout, like a statement that's finally breaking through.
And that feeling is captured perfectly by a quote right from the start of the book. It says, "Where I come from, voicelessness is the condition of my gender. We've been taught to silence ourselves, that our silence will save us." Wow. I mean, that single idea, that's the emotional heart of this entire novel. It's the conflict that drives everything.
So, to really get into this amazing novel, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the idea of silence, then look at the author herself. We'll meet the two main characters, dig into the cultural themes, uncover some symbolism, and wrap up with why this story is so important.
All right, let's start with Section 1, A Story of Silence. But, to really understand this story of silence, you have to understand the person who wrote it. So that brings us to Section 2, the author behind it, and how our personal truth was transformed into this powerful fiction.
The author's own life is, well, it's remarkably similar to the themes in her book. Etaf Rum is a Palestinian-American, born and raised in Brooklyn in a very traditional home. She really drew from her own life and the stories of women she knew, stories that were often left unsaid. In fact, she even left an unhappy marriage that echoed the control and silence you read about in the novel. But today, she's not just a writer. She owns her own bookstore and cafe, totally forging her own path. It's an incredible journey. And these maps really give you a sense of the two worlds at the heart of this story, Palestine and the United States. For the characters, this isn't just about moving from one place to another. No, it's this huge cultural and emotional journey, It's about bridging these two different worlds, a journey the author herself had to make.
And this idea of two worlds is actually built right into the structure of the novel. Which brings us to Section 3, Two Women, Two Worlds. It's really a tale of two different generations.
So the story is told through the eyes of two different women. First, you've got Isra. It's the 1990s, she's 17 in Palestine, and she's dreaming of finding love. But instead, she's pushed into an arranged marriage in Brooklyn. Fast forward to 2008, and we meet her daughter, Dea. She's 18, living in Brooklyn, and she's starting to uncover all these family secrets while fighting against having the same future her mother was forced into.
And just look at this contrast. It's so stark, right? On one hand, you have the ancient, traditional world of Jerusalem, and on the other, the busy, modern streets of Brooklyn. The characters are literally caught right in the middle of these two realities, and they're always trying to navigate that cultural gap. It's this exact conflict, this clash of cultures, that brings us to the novel's most powerful themes. Let's dive into Section 4, Breaking Cultural Chains.
Okay, so at the very heart of their struggle is this idea of patriarchy. Basically, a social system where men hold most of the power. And in the world of this book, this isn't some abstract idea. Oh no. It controls almost every single part of a woman's life, from who she can marry to whether she's even allowed to have dreams of her own. Now, it's really important to point this out, and the author makes this crystal clear. This story isn't meant to represent all Arab people or the entire culture. It's a very specific look into the world of conservative Arab culture. That's a crucial distinction. And this expectation of silence, it's just perfectly summed up in the advice Isra gets from her own mother before she gets married. She's told, "Soon you'll learn that there's no room for love in a woman's life. There's only one thing you'll need, and that's sabr, patience. Just patience. This idea that you have to just endure, to quietly carry your burden. It's a lesson passed down from one generation to the next."
So, in a world that demands your silence, how do you survive? Well, for both the author and her characters, the answer is books. Books are their lifeline. For Etaf Rum herself, they were a bridge to the outside world. And for the characters in her novel, they were a cure for how lonely they were. Reading becomes this kind of quiet act of rebellion. It's an escape, a way to see that other worlds are possible. Like when Isra daydreams about freedom while thinking about the stories in 1001 Nights. And you can totally see the author's love of literature and just how many layers she's woven into this story. Which brings us to a really cool part, Section 5, More Than a Name. We're going to unlock some of the symbolism here. Get this, the characters' names aren't random at all. They actually hint at their destinies. So Isra's name means night journey.
which is perfect, right? It's her physical trip to America, but it's also her inner spiritual journey. Then her daughter, Dea, her name means light or radiance. She's the one who brings light to the family's dark secrets. And then you have Farida, the matriarch. Her name means unique or precious, which is so ironic because she's so rigid and controlling. It kind of hints at a potential she lost because of tradition.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all add up to? Well, our final section gets to the heart of it. The power of a voice. When you get right down to it, A Woman Is No Man isn't just a beautifully written novel. The very act of creating this book, of putting it out into the world, is an act of defiance against that silence. It's the author, Etaf Rum, speaking her truth, and by doing that, she's giving a voice to so many who felt they didn't have one.
And this brings us right to the central tension of the whole story, and it leaves us with a really big question to think about. Is being voiceless a gender issue, or is it a cultural issue? The book digs into how complicated it is, how the two are all tangled up together, and it really makes you wonder, where does one end and the other begin?